In the war between love and power, not even blood was safe. A mother built a throne with her own bare hands, placed her son upon it, and did not know that the same throne would one day be used to sign her death warrant. This is the story of how far a mother would go to make a king, and how little that king would remember it once the crown was finally his. In 59 AD, on the dark waters of the Bay of Naples, a small pleasure boat carried a woman who had once ruled the most powerful empire on Earth through the ears of her own son. She did not know the boat had been engineered to collapse. The roof above her weighted with lead, built to crush her the instant the ship reached open water. She did not know that the order had come from the smiling boy she had raised, protected, and placed on the throne of Rome with her own hands. This was Agrippina the Younger, history's most dangerous mother, on the night her own creation turned against her. She was born in 15 AD into blood and tragedy, the daughter of the beloved General Germanicus, who died young, likely poisoned by rivals. She was 4 when her mother was accused of treason and exiled to starve on a barren island. She watched her brothers arrested and executed one by one under Emperor Tiberius. By her teenage years, Agrippina had learned Rome's cruelest lesson. Love was a luxury. Survival required calculation. She was briefly restored under her brother Caligula, then exiled again when his madness turned on her. When Caligula was assassinated, her uncle Claudius took the throne, and Agrippina returned, sharpened, and with a son from her first marriage, a boy named Nero. Looking at him, something hardened in her. She had lost everything to Rome's machinery of power. She decided her son would never be its victim. He would become its master, whatever the cost. To crown Nero, Agrippina first had to become empress. When Claudius's wife Messalina was executed for conspiracy, Agrippina, his own niece, maneuvered the Senate into legalizing their marriage, becoming the first woman in Rome to rule openly beside a living emperor, her face minted on imperial coin. But her real target was Claudius's true heir, Britannicus. She had Nero adopted as Claudius's son, married him to Claudius's daughter Octavia, and placed her own man, Burrus, in command of the Praetorian Guard. Then, in 54 AD, Claudius died suddenly after his favorite meal of mushrooms. Ancient sources say Agrippina poisoned him with the help of a known poisoner, Locusta. Within hours, the guard declared 17-year-old Nero emperor. Before Britannicus, the true heir, even understood what had happened, Agrippina had built an empire for her son with nothing but intelligence, ruthlessness, and, if the sources are believed, poison. She stood beside him as Rome cheered, not knowing the throne she had built would one day be turned against her. At first, Agrippina's power seemed absolute. Her face on coins beside her son's, her voice heard behind a curtain in the Senate, her presence looming even over foreign ambassadors. But being corrected by his mother in front of kings humiliated Nero, and his advisors, Burrus and Seneca, began quietly pulling him from her control. Sensing it, Agrippina made a fatal threat. She hinted she could still favor Britannicus instead. Nero's answer was murder. In 55 AD, Britannicus collapsed and died at a dinner table, poisoned on Nero's orders, while Nero calmly explained it away as a seizure. Agrippina understood immediately. Her son was now a killer, and she was no longer safe. Nero stripped her guards, exiled her from the palace, and turned every tool she had given him against her, until only one obstacle remained between him and total power: his own mother. By 59 AD, Nero had decided. He lured Agrippina to a banquet at Baiae, embraced her warmly, and sent her home on a gift, a ship secretly built to kill her, its ceiling rigged to collapse. When it failed, the crew tried to sink it. Agrippina swam to shore alive, and in one final act of political nerve, sent Nero a message pretending it was all an accident. Nero panicked. That same night, he sent soldiers to finish the job. As they entered her bedroom with swords drawn, Agrippina reportedly bared her stomach and told them to strike her womb first, the womb that had carried the son who now ordered her death. She was killed on the spot. Nero, told of her death, showed no grief, only a cold, disturbing curiosity, then lied to the Senate that she had died by her own hand out of guilt. Nero's freedom did not bring him peace. Ancient historians describe him haunted afterward. Nightmares, guilt, a growing detachment from reality. One by one, he destroyed everything his mother had built for him. Burrus removed, Seneca forced into suicide, his wife Octavia executed on false charges. His reign spiraled, the Great Fire of Rome, the persecution of Christians, mounting paranoia and cruelty, until in 68 AD, abandoned by the guard and condemned by the Senate, Nero took his own life in hiding. hiding. With him, the dynasty Agrippina had killed to build collapsed entirely, less than a decade after she died to protect it. What makes Agrippina's story so haunting isn't ambition alone. Rome is full of that. It's that everything she did in the name of a mother's love, twisted by trauma into something monstrous. She raised a son by teaching him, through every ruthless act he witnessed, that power justified anything. And when he grew into that same throne, he simply applied her own lesson back onto her. She built a weapon to protect herself from a violent world, and the weapon, in the end, turned on its maker. In her final moment, as the blade approached, did Agrippina feel regret, or only the cold clarity of a woman who had always known how this game ends? Her last words, demanding the sword strike her womb, remain one of history's most haunting lines. A mother forcing her son's violence to be as intimate as the bond he was severing. It is a story about how far love can be twisted in the name of protection, and how the very strength meant to save someone can, in the end, be the thing that destroys them. Nearly 2,000 years later, Agrippina's name still carries a chilling weight in the blood-soaked history of Rome. Remembered as an empress, survivor, schemer, and poisoner, she has often been portrayed as a monster, yet rarely as a woman shaped by unimaginable loss. Her story began not with ambition, but with tragedy. As a child, she watched her celebrated father die, her mother exiled to starvation, and her brothers disappear one by one under Rome's ruthless politics. Before she truly understood power, she had already learned that being close to the throne often meant a death sentence. Agrippina was not born ruthless. She was forged by grief, exile, and the constant fear that she would be the next victim. When she finally stood beside Emperor Claudius as Augusta and later saw her son Nero crowned emperor, power was more than victory. It was proof that she had survived the empire that had destroyed her family. Determined that Nero would never experience the helplessness she had endured, she shaped him into a ruler who believed mercy was weakness and survival demanded absolute control. Yet the lessons she taught became the seeds of her own destruction. The son she raised to eliminate every threat eventually saw his own mother as the greatest obstacle to his independence. The empire she carefully built around Nero slowly turned against her until the throne she had secured became the instrument of her death. Ancient historians preserve one unforgettable moment from her final hours. Facing the assassins sent by her own son, Agrippina reportedly bared her body and cried, "Strike my womb," forcing the killers to confront the terrible truth that the emperor ordering her death was the very child she had brought into the world. Whether every detail is true or embellished, the image has endured for nearly 2,000 years as one of history's most haunting scenes. Her life remains difficult to judge. Roman writers, many uncomfortable with powerful women, likely exaggerated parts of her story, but the central tragedy remains unchanged. Agrippina was a woman broken by loss who devoted everything to ensuring her son would never be powerless. She outmaneuvered rivals, survived exile, and reshaped an empire through intelligence and determination. She won nearly every political battle she fought. In the end, however, she lost the only battle that truly mattered. To the son she had sacrificed everything to place on the throne. History remembers Claudius as the emperor who was manipulated, and Nero as the tyrant who became a monster. Agrippina, however, is remembered as something far more complex, not simply a villain or a victim, but a mother who built an empire for her child, only to be destroyed by the very crown she placed upon his head. Her story endures as a timeless warning that love, when consumed by fear, ambition, and power, can ultimately create the very force that brings about its own destruction.